That's very nice. I enjoy this plant a lot. Music, they say that what someone throws away is someone else's prize. In this case, though, the trash is worth $400 million, and Parker Schnabel just found it. He found an abandoned Trommel, a huge gold processing machine that hadn't been used in decades, deep in the woods, hidden by layers of dirt and rust. It wasn't empty, though. Parker found gold on the inside. A lot of it. Enough to go down in history. But how does something so important get left behind? Even more seriously, what does Parker intend to do with this unique jackpot? Let's start. At first glance, the trauma seemed like nothing more than a pile of rusted metal that the forest had eaten. It looked like it had been abandoned for a very, very long time because it was dirty and surrounded by thick plants. Parker and his team knew better, though. The gear in question wasn't just any old thing. It was a beast. When it was at its best, this huge steel drum went through a lot of dirt every day and picked out gold nuggets and tiny specks. But this tunnel wasn't made to be precise like today's high-tech digging equipment. It was all about a lot of power and sound. Lots of stuff was put through it, but because it was old-fashioned, a lot of gold was lost. Yes, of course. That's crazy. Yes, that does have some gold in it. That's great. I'm really scared. Fine gold dust got through the cracks and mixed with the dirt, so it didn't catch everything. This is where things go crazy. That lost gold had been there for decades with no one touching it. There had been reports about an old mine site in the area for years. Some miners in the area said it was part of a big business that had to shut down because it ran out of money. Others thought the area had gold-rich dirt that had never been dug up, but no one had ever been brave enough to go look. All of that changed when Parker showed up. Something caught his eye as he got on the floor and brushed off the dirt. A tiny flash of metal that shines. His heart started beating fast as he looked closer. At first, he thought it was just the light. It wasn't just a few flakes of gold. There was a whole lot of gold stuck in that old machine. Parker knew right away that this new find was not like the others. There was a huge problem, though. The Trommel wasn't just broken, it was ruined. It was rusty, jammed, and barely standing after years of being outside. For Parker and his team to get any gold out of this spot, they had to bring the whole machine back to life. That wasn't an easy job. Finding a way to move the huge Trommel without making things worse was the first problem. I think it would be hard for you to make something like the inside and barrel of this. It would be like a full-time job to keep it up to date. That thing was built like a tank, it was huge, heavy, and stuck in place. But time wasn't on its side. The metal was broken down. The frame was weak, and one mistake could make the whole thing fall apart. It was a technical nightmare to get it out of the dense forest and into a place where it could be used. I had to use all of my engineering skills and sheer drive to get it there safely. But that was just the start. The real work started once they had it in place. Every part had to be taken care of. The gears were so worn out that they were hardly moving. The screens were filled with junk and dirt from years ago. The steel drum, which was the heart of the machine, was barely hanging together. From top to bottom, it had to be redone, and the heat was on. Every day, the team had to deal with new problems. It was impossible to find parts. The clock was ticking, and the rusty nuts wouldn't move. Getting this trauma back up and running was essential to the whole operation, failing was not a choice. Parker wouldn't give up. He knew what was at risk. And after days of hard work, sweat, and battle, something amazing happened. The trauma came back to life with a roar. The team was hoping for good results when the huge machine finally started turning again. But what they found was even better than they thought it would be. As they cleaned up the area around the trauma, they found something buried under a lot of dirt and other things. A pile of old pay dirt that hasn't been touched. After testing it for gold, it turned out to be much more valuable than they thought. The amount of gold in this lost pile was through the roof. Parker had never mined anything so high before. This was a big find. This could have been a gold mine that was just ready to be worked on. Come this way if you come now. You probably won't even see a lot of that you like until it's all piled up. Yes. Yes. Most of the time, other people don't get it, you know. You know, it's just really just drawing it. Parker was aware that he needed to move quickly. He didn't have time to build a full-fledged wash plant, so he used both old and new mining methods and tools to set up a temporary processing station. He wasn't going to leave anything to chance this time. It was planned to get back every bit of gold. And the results are completely crazy. The gold kept adding up day after day. As the numbers kept going up, Parker soon realized he wasn't just pulling a good haul. He had found one of the richest gold spots of his whole career by accident. The value went through the roof into the millions because of how much gold was found. What began as a last-ditch effort to fix a broken machine had turned into a huge win. Then Parker and his team found something even stranger, just when they thought the find could not get any bigger. The team found something that changed everything as they learned more about the land and the history of the place. They found a set of papers that hinted at an even bigger secret buried in a bunch of old mine records. These notes weren't just thrown together. They were detailed logs that showed how a secret network of old goldry sites were connected. All of them led back to this trauma. It became clearer as they looked at the records more. This tunnel wasn't just another old piece of mining gear. It was a small part of a much bigger plan that got lost over time. The logs talked about places that had been ignored for decades but had insanely high gold concentrations. It felt like finding a treasure map that led to a lot of money after it had been lying there all along. The sight Parker was seeing shocked him. If these records are true, this terrible event was only the beginning. No one knew how much more gold was still buried somewhere below the ground, ready to be found. Yes, I'm interested in seeing how the gold rebound goes. Then we can have a more serious talk about our choices. We're running out of time, and it's getting worse every day. We need to find the plant and choose what we're going to do with it. Parker now had the key that would help him find it. The hunt wasn't over yet. This was only the start. Parker had to bring the torch back to life before going after new gold-rich sites. That meant putting back together a piece of history. Every dent, rusty gear, and worn-out panel told a story of workers who had worked there in the past. People who had gone out into the harsh weather because they wanted to get rich. The tunnel had been used very hard for years, going through thousands of tons of dirt, sand, and rock. It was clear that this machine used to be a gold miner's best friend. Parker did not want to take any risks. He hired professionals to do the repair work. Every repair had to be done perfectly, since one small mistake could put the whole process at risk. As they worked non-stop to rebuild the trauma piece by piece, hours turned into days and days into weeks. The beast finally came back to life with a roar. When the fully recovered trauma was used, it was nothing short of amazing. It was amazingly good at processing dirt, quickly separating gold nuggets from fine bits. It was no longer just a digging machine. It was a sign of potential that had been lost that came back to life. Parker's team knew that the worst was yet to come. Getting an old mining machine to work again. Not only did they want to find gold. To find what had been left behind, you had to dig deeper. The gold and the past. Most people who work in gold digging pay attention to what they see in front of them. But sometimes the real wealth is hidden in the past. That's exactly what happened when they found the Trommel again, an old piece of mining equipment. It was a huge machine made to sort gold from rocks and dirt. That was a great piece of engineering back then. As technology got better, though, things like this were left behind and rusted away in abandoned mine camps. But Parker didn't see a piece of metal that wasn't useful. He saw an opening. It wasn't just a broken machine. The huge creature was asleep and ready to be woken up. Parker's team found the trauma hidden under a lot of dirt and weeds in the middle of nowhere, in a place that used to be full of gold seekers. Parker saw it, even though most people would have missed it. Old digging tools like this one often stuck gold in their dirt. Gold that was lost and was never found again. This idea wasn't just a pipe dream. It was a measured risk that could have paid off big. We tried out those 2 plants today, which was a good idea, but we need to commit to something. Time is running out. Getting the Trommel out of the wild was hard enough as it was. It was very big, weighed a lot, and was stuck in place. Heavy-duty cranes, cars, and a whole army of experts were needed just to move it. They were taking risks at every turn, but they knew it was worth it. The real work started once they finally got the Trommel to the workshop. Rust from years ago had to be cleaned off. Parts that were old and worn out had to be changed. Not only was the machine broken, though. It was about making it better. Old gears were swapped out for more modern ones. A brand new motor was put in. And more advanced devices were put in. What used to be a broken-down old machine is now a powerful modern gold miner. To make sure everything went well, the team used 3D modeling software to make a computer twin of the tunnel. They could try updates and fix bugs on this virtual version before making the real changes. This saved them time and money. Also, drones are used to make maps of the best gold-rich areas. These drones scan the ground very precisely to find the best places to dig. The Trommel worked great once it was up and going. No one thought it would be so good at pulling gold out of the ground, but it did. What had been left empty became a machine for making gold. It proved something bigger, though. It's not always gold that makes the best prize. It means taking chances, knowing where to look, and seeing worth where other people don't see it. Parker's group did more than just fix up an old machine. They learned about a lost part of mining history and used it to make one of their biggest gains. There was still one question after the Trommel was turned back on. How much more gold was still out there somewhere? The pressure was through the roof when it was finally time to fire up the tunnel. Could this old animal still do it? Or was it just a big piece of junk? It was like the huge drum came to life. A lot of dirt and junk came in. After a while, a lot of gold started to come out. It was hard to believe the numbers. Tons of gold were brought in by the Trommel, much more than anyone thought would happen. A huge amount of the risk had paid off. It wasn't just a forgotten machine. In fact, it was a gold mine. To the point. Then something strange took place. There was a lot more gold on one side of the tunnel than on the other. That wasn't like that. Something was definitely wrong if gold was building up in one place but barely showing up in another. Was the way things were set up wrong? Something mechanical? Or did it mean something even bigger? The group had to quickly figure it out. Do you see that in the corner? There's a big pool of gold over there. That's really cool. I think we might find some really nice ones now that we see this. The goal of this project wasn't just to get rich. People now think about mining differently because of it. All of a sudden, old, unused equipment wasn't just trash. The past might have had some more tricks up its sleeve. People like miners, engineers, and even history buffs started to dig through files, both literally and figuratively, to find old tools that might still work. It was kind of like a gold rush, but for old machines. But the truth is that this wasn't just about remembering old times. Parker's group changed the way digging was done. By adding new technology to old tools, they were able to collect gold much more quickly and with less damage to the environment. That made people appreciate them, not just other miners but also people in the area. In the end, the traumatized machine was more than just a machine that worked. As a warning that history still has many mysteries to be solved, it was a sign. The goal wasn't just to find gold. In it, they looked into the past and showed that the best treasures aren't always the ones you expect to find. The team's win showed one thing. With big ideas and a lot of hard work, even the most rusty old things can be turned into gold-making machines. What began as a dangerous test changed the rules of mine in the end. The lost Trommel became a sign of strength, creativity, and vision. A warning that the best treasures aren't always buried deep in the ground, sometimes they're hidden in the past. It wasn't just about finding gold with this find. It was meant to change the way people feel about mining. Once thought to be worthless, abandoned tools suddenly became time capsules full of untapped potential. The business world had to change the way it did things. What else was left behind that might still be very valuable? It wasn't just Parker's team that won. Everyone in the mining world woke up to it. The healed trauma did more than just bring in gold. It did the job with a lot less waste and damage to the environment than old ways of doing things. It called into question the old idea that mine has to hurt the environment. The best part is that this is just the start. People became interested in old mining technology because of Trommel's revival. This made other people think about tools from the past and how they could still be useful today. AI, robotics, and cutting-edge mapping tools were being used to look at old mining sites again and find deposits that had been missed before. The Trommel wasn't just a machine, though. It showed that past and new ideas can come together to make something amazing. Yeah, these hydraulic riffles are worth a try. They've always been a little picky for me. They need to be plugged in, but everyone in New Zealand has them, so it's a good chance for us to try them out. Parker and his team didn't just fix up an old piece of gear, they changed the way mining will be done in the future. For a long time, people thought that machines were useless once they hit the end of their useful life. That idea was wrong, though, because of Parker's project. By fixing up an old piece of machinery that had been left behind, his team showed that mining doesn't always need to buy expensive new gear. The best answers are sometimes already out there, waiting to be found again. But it wasn't just about putting an old machine back together. Combining what they knew from the past with new techniques, Parker and his team changed the way mining is done. They didn't just put bandages on the wound and hope for the best. To rethink how gold is taken out of the ground, they looked at old mine records, worked with researchers, and used cutting-edge technology. The result is a model that changes the game because it combines efficiency and sustainability. Universities and researchers have been moved by his work to make new algorithms that can look at old equipment. These systems can tell if a machine needs to be fixed up or thrown away, which keeps important things from going to waste. This new technology is a huge step forward for an industry where tools are often thrown away too soon. It helps miners get the most out of every piece of gear. Parker is making waves all over the country, not just in the Yukon. Teams from all over the world, including Australia, South America, and Africa, are now looking at their own old mines to see if they have been sitting on gold mines. Mining companies are giving old areas new life by changing their attention from new dig sites to old ones. These areas were once thought to be tapped out. There is no denying the effect on the economy. This new way of doing things creates jobs, brings mining towns back to life, and helps local economies grow everywhere it goes. It's not just coal companies that are interested. Environmental groups are also keeping a close eye on things. People have said for decades that mining is bad for the environment. There is another way to do things, though, as shown by Parker's Trommel project. His team has shown that mines can get the most out of the resources they already have instead of constantly destroying new land. This cuts down on waste and needless damage. They're showing that mining doesn't have to be dangerous by using smarter, more responsible ways. It is possible for it to be profitable and last for a long time. That's not just a small improvement, it's a big change in the business world. It's the same kind of setup that my grandfather had. I'm now running a tunnel that feeds a set of jigs. So it's kind of cool that it's happening again. As for me, it does take me back to Big Nugget and remind me of my childhood there. What he and his team have done is more important than digging gold. It's about making whole neighborhoods better. When mining starts up again, it brings new life to towns that were having a hard time before. Shops, bars, and other small businesses are expanding because workers and tourists are buying more. People who used to give up on finding opportunities in these places are now seeing a future again. It's not just about the gold that comes up. The effect it has on nearby economies shows that one good project can sometimes make everything different. What's more, this project is changing the way people think about mining. For many years, growth was always linked to tech that was bigger, better, and cost more. For Parker, though, the best way to move forward isn't always to start over. Sometimes, it's to make better use of what's already there. What he has isn't just an old piece of gear. As an example of how hard work, imagination, and a clear vision can turn something forgotten into something new and important, it has become a symbol of innovation. The way Parker does things also sends a message to the whole business. To be successful, mining doesn't have to waste things. His team has shown that it is possible to mix environmental responsibility with economic growth by fixing up and reusing old tools. Instead of throwing away what they had learned from the past, they found a way to build on it and make something better, more long-lasting, and eventually more profitable. It's not just mines that this project will affect, though. It makes us all think again about the things we think are old or useless. How many tools, businesses, or ideas have been thrown away because they look too old to be useful? Parker's work makes us think about how we think about progress, not just how deep we should dig for gold. By giving this terrible event a second chance, Parker has shown that real creativity doesn't mean giving up on old ways of doing things. You have to find new ways to use them. That's a lesson that can be used in many situations besides gold digging. Everyone should pay more attention to what they already have. Because chances to make the most of things are sometimes right in front of you. But now for the real question. Was Parker just lucky this time? Or has he found out something much bigger? Could this long-lost machine be a part of a bigger prize that has been ignored for years?